Well, we are back for another episode of Club Dub Podcast presented to you by SportsMockery.com. What is going on, guys? Got a big game this week. 49ers and Bears. Eric, Drew, and Kevin back at it again. Guys, what's happening? It's been a couple days. How we been?
Not bad. Not
Doing
bad.
well, man.
So
Ready for another game. Let's do this.
Yeah, no kidding. Man, that audio still sounds good. I texted our boss today about getting me one of those. We'll see if he's tuning in. Chris, I hope I can grab one of those. But same with you, Drew. We got to get you one of those as well. So
yeah, I actually have one. I just didn't bring it with me when I travel. So
you were saying that, yeah. We'll get it. We'll get them going. We'll get the audio quality going for you guys here soon enough. But let's talk Bears. A lot of news this week. None of it really good.
No,
either.
No.
First and foremost, again, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to get things started with Khalil Mack's foot injury. This has been, we all kind of saw this coming. It was the last couple of weeks he hasn't practiced Monday through Friday. He's been given the whole week off to rest his foot, so he's well enough to play on Sunday. Now we're starting to see the effects of even Sundays, hitting our best player. And it doesn't look like he's going to be able to go on Sunday. Again, that can change. They haven't ruled him out. They haven't put him on IR like initial reports from Rappaport and Schefter were saying this week. But it's on the table, and it's a big blow to this defense.
No question. They were already down two of their best defensive players in Hicks with his groin injury and then COVID for Robert Quinn. So now you're risking losing Mack as well. Those are arguably your three best players outside of Roquan Smith. So this is just brutal timing for the Bears considering how important these next couple of games are. But at the same time, Mack battled. He played well despite this injury, and the Bears are starting to realize we need to get this guy healthy because he can be an even bigger influence in that regard. They're probably hoping that they're going to get at least one of their primary guys back, probably Hicks more than Quinn at this point, the way it's looking right now, which would be a big help because San Francisco tends to run the ball pretty well, and Hicks is really good against the run. So getting him back would be a big help. Maybe Quinn comes back. We'll have to see. But, shutting Mack down is a short-term blow, but giving him a chance to heal might help them in the long term, especially during the second half of the season.
Oh, 100%. And I think, just think about the severity of what this injury must be, considering how banged up he's been the last couple of seasons, always on the injury report, always playing on Sunday. So the fact that they're actually considering having to give him a rest, it must be pretty significant. So, I think it's probably the right short-term move for them. Obviously, not having him against, three really good running teams, well, at least two of them, in the 49ers and the Ravens coming up if he goes on IR would be a blow for sure, especially for a team that has, still very much healthy playoff hopes at the moment, not considering their offense and where it's at and Justin Fields, not, being in a situation where he's not able to have success. So putting that aside, this is still a team that's very much in position to potentially make the playoffs. You get rid of your best player, and now all of a sudden that drops significantly. So hopefully they are able to combat that with, to Eric's point, Akeem Hicks coming back. Maybe Robert Quinn also comes back. They surely missed him against Brady and the Bucks on Sunday.
Yeah.
So, hopefully there's some positivity there, because if not, then what seemed like winnable games against the 49ers and even the Steelers coming up in the next two games, even those look difficult at this point.
We're going to talk about it throughout today, but this is a very winnable game on Sunday for the Bears. I don't think the 49ers are very good. I'll be honest. I don't think they're very good. I don't think they have a quarterback that's good enough to win big-time games. And they play in the toughest division in football, so you've got to give them a little bit of leeway there. But they have some key injuries as well, and we'll get to those. Trent Williams is out, the 8-time Pro Bowler. He didn't practice today. He has been ruled out for Sunday, but he didn't play last week. And he's been, he didn't practice today, obviously. So that could be, they got a rookie that would start in place of him. So it'd be the battle of, Robert Quinn. You'd probably try and match him up a little bit more over there with Mack not playing. But anyway, the Khalil Mack injury means two things to me. One, if they're willing to put him on IR, they're not going to trade him. Not that that was even on their radar, but the trade deadline is next week. It's November 2nd. So this was something that we're monitoring with some of these players. Are the Bears going to be sellers? If he goes on IR, that pretty much means no. They're not going to sell him, which is a good thing. I think I don't I would not want to see him get traded. Even the state of this team, maybe you get a first-round pick for him. Maybe it changed a little bit, but the odds of you getting that for a guy on this big of a contract is pretty small. So one, it means that to me, and two, I kind of lost my train of thought with my second point, but this is, I don't know. I'm interested to see Trevis Gibson play on Sunday. He's obviously going to get a lot more time if Mack doesn't play, but do you guys foresee Trevis Gibson filling in and playing at the level that he did against, a team like the Raiders when he had a sack or two? And can he get there against the 49ers offensive line that's, it's been pretty good?
I think it's possible. I mean, he didn't play well against the Bucs, but nobody really did on defense because
Right.
They were pretty much put in a hole from the beginning. So they didn't really have a chance to do much of anything, especially with the guys that were missing. But, Tampa Bay's offensive line has been decent, but they've also helped it out with, their consistency running the football and all sorts of things. So, but when Jimmy Garropolo is dropped back to pass, you can get to him. I mean, he's not the most mobile guy in the world. So if the Bears can slow down the run, I think Gibson is good enough to, get there if you give him a couple of opportunities, especially if Quinn is rushing on the other side or, Hicks is coming up through the interior. So I think he's capable of, having one of those games. It's just a question of, can he recover from the somewhat difficult game he had last week?
100%. I don't know if you heard Donovan Smith after that game basically told me like, hey, I made 99 my son. Like that was, it was that level of game for the Bears entirely. So, I kind of throw that one out a little bit. Of course, it was a concerning game. No one played well. It's not a good look for the resume, but you think they can have success against a lesser team. I mean, if we're being honest, in the 49ers, who I still think are a tough matchup for the Bears, even though it's winnable. It's still, given the Bears offense, they can lose they could lose to the Lions tomorrow if they keep playing that way. So, it's one of those things where you hope that Trevis Gibson can come back and play well. He's flashed well. He has sacks on the season. He's made pressures. He was great in the preseason. So, there is hope for sure. I think, if Quinn is still out and Mack is out, now you have Gibson and Charles Snowden, Sam Kamara. Like, I mean, at that point you're looking at that's just troublesome. So, I think that's where the Bears may have to, be very creative. That'll be a tough day for Sean Desai if they have to go without Quinn and Mack. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Kevin, I think, someone like Trevis Gibson can come in. This is his chance to make an impact in a game where the Bears need this as a get well game.
Yeah, I mean, they have to get back to 500. They have to win this game. It's a home game. It's against a lackluster quarterback that I call it the Carson Wentz syndrome, and the two ended up playing each other last week in a crap game. So I'm not going to hate on them for that. They had really bad weather, but the Carson Wentz syndrome is they try and give you the ball syndrome, and Jimmy Garropolo has that. Jimmy Garropolo turns the ball over a lot.
Yeah.
So this is a get well game for the Bears defense. This is a get well game for Eddie Jackson. There's no excuses not to have at least 2 to 3 turnovers in this game. And that's going to be a big hitting point for them. No question. That's got to be bulletin board material for the Bears this week. Bulls. I'm talking Bulls because I'm watching them right now too. We got a little love for Joakim Noah coming up on the show as well. Joakim Noah night at the UC. But
Heck yeah.
Jimmy, appreciate the question. I just want to know if KC will win the division. We'll save that for the questions section. We'll get to that. They look terrible. What were you mentioning, Drew, before we get to the next question? What we're gonna do? What do you say?
I was just saying, heck yeah, to Joakim Noah night.
Yeah, it's pretty great. They're down, I think, 4 at halftime to the Knicks right now. So we'll get to that. But Matt Nagy contracting COVID, obviously, our well wishes to him. He seems fine. He said he had no symptoms. He said he felt fine. But the thing that was weird about this was he didn't reveal his location, which, the first thing that popped into my mind was, is he at a doctor's office? Is he at a hospital or things like that? My mind goes to the worst case scenario, but he's been doing his Zoom meetings and things like that. So he seems to be doing fine, but his status, he might not be on the sidelines on Sunday, which means special teams coordinator Chris Tabor would be the head man. I know nothing about Chris Tabor, but seems like the right move, I guess, if you want to leave Sean Desai and Bill Lazor to their duty stations.
It makes sense. I mean, Tabor's the longest tenured of the 3 coordinators they have. He knows Matt Nagy the best. And plus, by doing that, you can keep Bill Lazor focused on the offense. You can keep Sean Desai focused on the defense. No other responsibilities. So in that, it is logical that you would go with Tabor. At the same time, you just don't know if he can handle those head coaching duties because he's never even been considered for that kind of job in his career. So it's an unknown, but the logic of the approach does make sense if Nagy can't go.
Agreed. And actually, to that point, Eric, apparently Chris Tabor was a head coach at a very small college or high school. I can't remember which back in the day. So just thought I'd throw that out there. But no, I mean, in fact, Matt Nagy, he basically talked about that in his press conference on Wednesday, is that the idea is let Sean Desai focus on defense and let Bill focus on the offense because they have enough to worry about there. Someone like Chris Tabor can handle running the team. And I think it's fine. The reality is the offense is the players are worried about, are working with their position coaches during the game on the sidelines. Same with the defense. The head coach has just a few situational things to really take care of, and obviously the pregame speech. And I mean, I'm trying to minimize it in the sense that Chris Tabor is not going to have a whole lot to do that's different from probably what he does on Sunday. So I'm not too worried about actually running the operation on Sunday. What I am, the good news is Nagy's been able to participate in practices and in being in Justin Fields' ears during the week. And I know a lot of Bears fans are probably snickering at that, hoping not. But, for the sake of consistency of the team, he has been able to do that. Thankfully, he's healthy and been able to be there. So, like you said, well wishes to him. The reality is, who knows? I mean, if you have one less voice on the sideline on Sunday, maybe Bill Lazor is able to focus on the part of the playbook that he wants to focus on without any input from Nagy, and maybe that means the offense takes off a little bit. And if that's the case, imagine the storm we're dealing with on Sunday during our post-game reaction where the Bears have put up 40 points and here they are.
I mean, let's be honest. Justin Fields did say in his press conference he feels a big game coming on. We've seen this with rookie quarterbacks time and time again. I don't remember who tweeted it. It might have been Mark Potash, but he said Joe Burrow's 5th NFL start, 3 points, sacked a bunch, turnover, a lot like Fields last week. And then in his, down the road that he ended up, his next start or whatever had a huge game. So there is a lot of this that we see with rookie quarterbacks. Maybe I don't think the Bears offense as a whole is going to put up 40 points. Nick Bosa is going to be playing in this game. The Bears offensive line still stinks, even though Larry Borom is coming back. He practiced today, and he practiced at right tackle today. We had a lot of video of that. So Larry Borom looks to be your starting right tackle, which is a huge relief.
If he's back, yeah.
I think he'll play. I think they're kind of like, you got to play, man.
I mean, their alternatives aren't exactly ideal. You either got Latavius Simmons, who was abused against Tampa Bay, or you got Alex Bars, who's played pretty much just guard for most of his career. So it's basically either Borom plays or you try Simmons again, who's probably going to be matched up on Bosa for a good chunk of that game, and he's going to be absolutely massacred.
Yeah, Jason Peters said that Borom he'd be back this week. He's been practicing, so let's keep our fingers crossed. I mean, he's a rookie, but he's far and away their best option there. I've seen enough of Latavius Simmons for the rest of my life after what happened on Sunday. I felt bad for the kid. I mean, he got absolutely obliterated by one of the best pass rushers in the league in JPP. But let's hopefully Borom is healthy and back in there, and we don't have to worry about this.
And the good news on that is Borom actually has a ton of experience at right tackle. He played there almost exclusively at Missouri, so it's not like he's completely unknown to this position. The Bears had initially planned to move him to left tackle, and he was playing pretty well before he got hurt. But now it's just an emergency situation. We need a body at right tackle that we can trust, and he is by far the best option of the ones that they have because Wilkinson's on the COVID list. Jermaine Ifedi's still injured, so you gotta do something. You need a solution, and right now that's Borom.
100%, and I think Borom played really well at left tackle for the handful of plays he was there against the Rams. So I think. Obviously, Juan Castillo has been very high on him going back to training camp. It makes sense that they would try to trot him out there if he's able to go. And, Borom at 60% or whatever is probably still better than Simmons at 100 or even Alex Bars, who, by the way, I think played admirably in relief of Simmons, on Sunday. So, shout out to Alex Bars. Look, the Bears are just they just need better protection than they had on Sunday. I don't care how they get it. They could have, Jimmy Graham if he's going to play, JP Holtz, Cole Kmet. They could have a one-person route and have everybody else stand and block. I mean, if they need to do that. I mean, it was ridiculous on Sunday. So, hopefully Borom's able to go and solidify that.
Yeah, it was an onslaught of Justin Fields on Sunday. Turnovers that some were his fault, but most were not. And we're going to get to that right now. Pro Football Focus, 14% of sacks are Fields' fault. Justin Fields is the most sacked quarterback in the entire freaking league. He's been sacked 22 times, and he's only started 5 games. There's a problem on offensive line. We know this. We've seen this. But everybody going to bat for the offensive line saying Fields has taken too much time to throw the ball. Yes, he's not perfect, and he played a bad game on Sunday. Yes, but for Christ's sakes, guys, this was on the offensive line. The first 20 minutes when he was strip sacked 3 times, I mean, he had less than 2 seconds to throw the ball. I mean, it was ridiculous. He couldn't even take a step back. And there's the first play I want to point out is it was a safety blitz from Antoine Winfield Jr., who is a phenomenal safety out of Minnesota. He was banged up to start the year, but he's been all that and more for this Bucs defense. But take a look at this play design and tell me if you would ever call this again if you recognize blitz.
You're going to see the safety blitz. This is a young quarterback. You turn your head this way. Well, no one's there to get him.
Oof.
Play that one more time.
You're going to see the safety blitz. This is a young quarterback. You turn your head this way. Well, no one's there to get him.
That's just great design by the Bucs to flash a safety in there that could end up dropping. But anytime you see a safety that far up, you got to be. And I don't know if you necessarily want to blame Fields for not pointing it out right away, but that's 2 rookies in the backfield, and doing a play action pass and expecting Herbert to get over there to block that guy come on. He's not. I think that's too much of an ask, and I think it's a poor play call.
It is what it is, and I think for that one, I look whether Fields needed to identify the safety if he did or not, and check a protection slide to the left if Herbert needs to get there faster. There was plenty of analysis done where Khalil Herbert was just slow recognizing that Winfield is coming. Jason Peters got beat pretty badly by Shaq Barrett, so that didn't help things. It was just a bad play all around. And, quite honestly, it's just I got to give credit to Todd Bowles. I mean, there were so many examples in that game where he did the Brandon Staley thing where, he shows one coverage, he has one safety deep, all of a sudden rotates to two high safety, shell. There were certain plays where they showed blitz with people in the middle. They dropped back into passing lanes on very popular Bears route concepts like curls and sticks, in the middle of the field where, I saw a couple times where one of the linebackers would drop back exactly where Cole Kmet was curling into in the middle of the field. It was just beautiful play design, beautiful scouting. It was awesome. So credit to Todd Bowles. I mean, he called a heck of a game. But look, yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Justin Fields. He did not play well. I mean, I know everyone wants to just be like, fuck the coaching staff and everything.
Right.
Yeah, sure. But he didn't play well either, but he did not have help. And you got to imagine.
You, Eric.
What's that?
He's pointing right at you.
No. It's not that. I'm like, how there's some there's some accounts on Twitter where it's just like, once Fields has all the, it's like, they're like begging for a perfect situation. It's never going to be that. And Fields did not do enough himself to lift himself out of situations where he could have. Anyway, not about that. The point is, they didn't have a chance on Sunday. Nothing went right. I cannot imagine a game going that badly again. But we've already said that once before this year, and that was after Cleveland. So who knows? I
guarantee. I'm going to use the Charles Barkley guarantee again this episode. They will not lose by 35 points to the 49ers. It's not going to happen. They might not win the game, but Jimmy Garropolo is not a good quarterback. He does not scare me. We're going to talk a little bit about Trey Lance, the rookie pick 3rd overall that was passed. He looks like he's healthy enough to play this week. He's not going to start. They've named Jimmy the starter, but he could be in there. But anyway, before we get to that, Justin Fields, now you've heard our analysis on it. Let's hear what Bill Lazor had to say about him recognizing blitzes.
Yeah, Bill, when it comes to the success of Justin Fields, I know it will end up being him understanding when teams are blitzing, especially off the edge. In last game, it seems, of course, offensive line protections are out of his control, but it seems like he was unaware of when blitzes were coming his way. Did you have conversations with him about, I don't know, developing that sixth sense of knowing when it's coming or being more aware of when that blitz is coming his way?
You remember in the preseason when he got his helmet knocked off? Joe, do you remember that one? That was unaware of a blitz that he was responsible for. He learned. If something is his responsibility, then he's got to know when it's coming. If something is to be picked up, then part of him has to trust that the protection is going to pick it up, and part of him, which is easy to say, hard to do. I guess the easiest term people, or the common term people use is to feel the protection and feel that you have to move away from it. Well, his focus is down the field. So if something's supposed to be picked up, certainly there are times when he's going to move into the soft spot of the protection. But I'm trying to recall in the game if there was one that he was responsible for that he didn't see, and I can recall the one in the preseason when his helmet was knocked off, but I think he's actually doing pretty well.
So there you have it from the guy himself. Bill Lazor thinks Fields is doing a pretty fine job. I tend to agree. I think that's just he's dealt with circumstances that, quite frankly, it's a tough situation to be in. And we taught Eric and I, and when you hopped off your call on the call on Sunday, Drew, Eric and I chatted about that. And listen, it's just a tough situation that he's in right now. And that's why I think that for us to be looking at the stat sheet and for us to pin he has to be the automatic savior is an unfair threshold that we're putting him on right now. And
Sure.
We all want the perfect fix. We all want let's have Aaron Rodgers play quarterback and mask all of our other deficiencies on offense. But he's not that yet. He most likely will never be that. He will hopefully be a good quarterback, but he's not. It's going to take a while. Rookie quarterbacks are not saviors, No,
100%, 100% agree there. And that's the best they can do. Meanwhile, by the way, I just got to say, I'm also watching Cardinals Packers here. And
what's the score of that game?
It's 7-7 in the second quarter. The Packers are down their top three.
Who's got the Packers?
I don't remember. It might have been AJ Dillon. I can't remember for sure.
I need Big Bob in fantasy.
It was not a receiving touchdown, or at least it wasn't Tunyon. I know that. It's 7-7. The Packers are moving the ball with relative ease without their top three wide receivers. I mean, it's just, and they're on the road. Fucking Packers, man. It's unreal. It's machine.
Having a Hall of Fame QB is nice.
It sure is.
Yeah. And they're beat up on offensive line too. I mean, Josh Myers is back on injured reserve. Bakhtiari's still on the PUP list, but he'll be back. He'll be back for the second Bears game.
Yeah, he will.
So that's going to be a big boost for them. And it just goes to show. I mean, when you got Pro Bowl depth on all ends, it's hard to beat. Aaron Jones is great. I'm sure he's had a pretty big hand in this game already. And that Randall Cobb connection has probably been pretty big too. So.
I haven't checked the stats, but I mean, it just looked easy. I mean, they've been running the ball really well. The Cardinals have also looked like shit on offense. I mean, Kyler's missed some throws that he just shouldn't miss, and man, I got to tell you, man, it's just impressive. I mean, I was skeptical of Matt LaFleur when he was hired. He's turned out to be pretty decent.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Sure
yeah,
does.
He's got. It's funny. I'll talk about this in my final take too, but it's funny. He's got. I think LaFleur just picked up his 30th win as a head coach like a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
might have been against the Bears, actually. I can't remember.
He's got 32, 33, 34 wins in his, now third year as the Packers head man. So that's just, it's unheard of. And Matt Nagy still has a winning record as Bears coach, but Kyle Shanahan does not. Kyle Shanahan is 31-39, I believe I read today, as the head coach of the 49ers. And now a lot of that is coming into play as if, will he return as coach next year? And that's why another reason why this is a big game for the Bears. I'm going to get to that. But Niners are riding a 4-game winning streak. or 4-game losing streak. Who predictions for this one? What do we got? Who breaks their losing streak first?
Go ahead, Eric.
This is a really, really tough one because you can easily see either team winning this game for various reasons. It really depends on who plays and who doesn't for both teams because both teams are banged up. The Bears being at home, I think, is important for this. You're going to have the crowd noise on your side. You're going to want to rebound from that really nasty effort against the Bucs. They've rebounded well before, like they did against Cleveland. They rebounded and, beat up on Detroit and then beat the Raiders. So you expect them to come out, motivated to play well. I honestly think the Bears will win this one. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be, one of those, sloppy, ugly affairs on Halloween. And, it'll be another one of those low-scoring games that they always seem to have against the 49ers over the past few years. I think Justin Fields will play better. He might not, have a great game, but I think he'll absolutely play better than he did against the Bucs. And, I actually think he'll have a couple of touchdown passes. First time, in his rookie career, he'll have a couple of touchdowns. So, a nice little step in the right direction. I think it'll be maybe about a 6 or 7 point win for them, and they'll manage to get to Pittsburgh for a chance to maybe even post a winning record in spite of everything.
Give me Justin Fields
6 or 7 point win. Dang. Okay.
I was gonna say, give me Justin Fields' first 300-yard game. This Sunday.
My gosh!
His
wow.
First 300-yard game, 2 touchdowns, passes.
At this point, what do you got to lose, man?
Gotta happen. He threw for 185 last week and had no help and against a good defense. Give me him and Allen Robinson. Definitely a point of emphasis at practice this week was we get you more involved. Give me Allen Robinson with his best game of the year. Give me Justin Fields with 300 yards passing and a Bears win. I don't know what they're going to win by yet. I don't know. Give me till the end of the show to figure that out. But they're going to win this one. They'll be back to 500. Another thing we want to touch on.
Can I give my prediction?
Oh, I thought you gave yours. My fault. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. This one's going to be like no. First of all, obviously, it's a winnable game. We've talked about that. They have a lot of things that are kind of in their favor here. They're at home. They have a good rushing offense. The 49ers have had an iffy rush defense. Some Bears fans might say Matt Nagy might not be coaching, so that's probably a good thing. So, just there are some positives here, I think, for the Bears. The challenge, obviously, you have availability from a team perspective. If Khalil Mack doesn't play, will Robert Quinn be back? Will Akeem Hicks be back? It looks promising on that latter front, but we'll see. Honestly, until the passing offense shows me something that isn't so fundamentally broken, it's hard for me to pick. Whereas at least on offense for the 49ers, you can tell what they're trying to do. The Bears, you can tell what they're trying to do. They're trying to rush the ball. They have an identity there, but their pass offense just doesn't make sense. And so because of that, and because this is going to be one of those like time of possession battles where the 49ers are holding on to the ball because they're running it well. I think they're going to run it well. The Bears are trying to hold on to the ball because they're running it well. Can they sustain enough drives? So if the 49ers hold on to the ball, they score touchdowns or even field goals, and the Bears have to catch up. They now have reduced time. Long story short, I am feeling, and I know you guys picked the Raiders to win, and I picked them to lose, and obviously the Bears won. But
no, we picked the Bears to win.
You guys picked the Bears to win, right? You guys picked them to beat the Raiders, which they did. I picked them to lose that game. I feel like I'm feeling a loss here. Sorry, Bears fans. I'm feeling a pretty solid road win for those 49ers, and Kyle Shanahan gets the last laugh against Justin Fields. I'm thinking a low-scoring game. Probably neither team eclipses above 21 points. I'm thinking like 20-17 49ers.
Jimmy Garropolo is 2-0 against the Bears in his career. Made his first start in a 49ers uniform against the Bears in 2017. A brutal season for the Bears, if we recall that one. That was a very tough year to watch football. But his predecessor, Trey Lance, certainly appears to be – he suffered a knee sprain a couple weeks ago. He didn't play yesterday, or last week, rather. Did not suit up for Sunday Night Football against the Colts. But video shows that he's probably going to be in uniform this Sunday.
Yeah.
mean, look at him take a couple steps here. Like, I mean, he just
moving pretty well.
That knee looks pretty good to me.
Yeah,
that knee looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to say he plays on Sunday. And again, we've seen Kyle Shanahan do this multiple times now, where we've seen him use him in goal line situations, and I think that this is going to be more of a point of emphasis for him. Eric, I don't know if you've noticed, have they used him in any other? I know he started a couple games, but have they used him in any other circumstances other than like some goal line formations like they did in week 1 and week 2? Would you expect him to use them in different stuff?
Possibly. I think they're going to try and sprinkle him in from time to time, get him some experience. Also, like you said, use him in goal line and probably short yardage situations because of his mobility, which makes sense. That's something you want to take advantage of, since obviously Jimmy Garoppolo can't do that. But, Shanahan likes to run, that classic outside zone bootleg play action type of offense, especially when the run game's going well. And when you look at Trey Lance, his skill set is perfectly suited for that, because he plays like that Aaron Rodgers style. He plays the Jake Plummer, John Elway, all those guys who have had success in this type of offense, which is one reason they drafted him. So I think you're going to be looking. You're going to be.
Name.
What, Jake Plummer? Yeah.
Jake Plummer's a name I have not heard in a while. Continue.
People forget that he actually played really well in Shanahan's offense for a period of time.
Sure did.
Anyway, the point being, that's probably what they're going to be looking at in terms of when they bring him in, bootleg play action, seeing if they can get him outside the pocket where he can make plays using his natural, physical talents. And again, just getting him experience on the road against a good defense in a hostile environment. These are the sorts of situations that you actually want to insert him into. But I still think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play the majority of the snaps. It's going to be the thing that the Bears were trying to do in those first couple of weeks with Dalton Fields, and they're just going to continue it because, they can, whereas the Bears just decided, you know what, we're just going to move forward with Fields and just, try and get him as much experience as we possibly can. And that's what I expect them to do. You're probably going to see Lance mostly in short yardage, third down situations, depending on the situation. And then obviously, as you said, goal line. So barring an injury to Garropolo, which is definitely possible because he's had a problem staying healthy, you're probably going to see Lance maybe 5 to 10 times in this game, depending on situations.
Who do you guys think is running scout team to simulate Trey Lance? Andy Dalton? Nick Foles?
I think Dalton's probably simulating Garropolo.
Yeah.
I would assume so. Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. We haven't heard anything about that. We saw a lot of those arguments too this week. Oh, let's go back to Andy Dalton after everybody was bitching about getting Fields back in there.
My man, Andy Dalton.
Yeah. All right, Drew. All right, man.
I don't care.
All right. You do care. This is a pride thing for you.
It's really not. I mean, however much Andy Dalton played, he played well. I mean, I'm.
Yeah, you know what? Andy Dalton's Bears career, not a bad one.
Not a bad one. So
not a bad one. If we never see him on the field again, it was not a bad one.
That's what I'm saying. So
better than Mike Glennon was.
You're right.
Yeah. And so far, I mean, he's I was gonna say. So that take is a success in my eyes. But look, I mean, to Eric's point, it's whether Trey Lance plays or not. Obviously, he brings a different dimension that Jimmy Garoppolo does not. Quite honestly, I'm more worried about Jimmy Garoppolo's dimension because the Bears, if Garoppolo plays, he's get the ball out quickly, make the Bears tackle. That's his game.
A lot of Elijah Mitchell. Yep.
Exactly. Get it to Deebo Samuel, get it to Brandon Ayuk if he plays. Who knows? That's the game plan. Can the Bears tackle? That's a very big question. So that is what worries me more. As if I'm looking at this game, which is surprising. Obviously, he also gives you a better chance at interceptions if they're able to get some pressure on him. So we'll see how that happens. Trey Lance, when he throws the ball, I'm not too worried about that right now. He's just not accurate enough to be consistently successful at this stage in his career. But yeah, his legs are big. So the Bears are going to need to have a plan to keep him in the pocket if they can, because hey, that'll be good practice for Lamar Jackson when they come to Soldier Field in a few weeks.
Jimmy Garoppolo loves to turn the ball over. As I said, he's turned the ball over at least once in every game this year, weeks 1 and 2, when they beat it's a great point, too. The only 2 wins the 49ers have this year are against Detroit and the Eagles. So every other team they've lost to. They lost to Green Bay, they lost to Seattle, they lost to Indy. So, again.
All 3 of those were home games, by the way. They haven't won a single home game.
Yeah,
Weird.
so keep that in mind. But Jimmy, or what? Sorry, Eric, what were you gonna say?
I said weird.
Yeah, it is strange, isn't it? Like I remember them being a pretty good home team the last couple of years, and that the one game obviously that sticks out to me is that one they played against Green Bay in the NFC Championship game when they just absolutely rickrolled Green Bay, and I mean they just absolutely just dominated. I mean that was the coming out party for Raheem Mostert, who everyone was like, this guy's good, but he's a star. Too bad he can't stay healthy, but. My point getting back to Garropolo, fumble in week 1, fumble in week 2, or fumble in a pick, or fumble in week 1, fumble in week 2, a fumble and an interception in week 3, interception in week 4, and then 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions last week. Granted, the weather was bad in Indianapolis, but this is a guy you can turn the ball over on. It's going to stink if Khalil Mack doesn't play because this is a game that he really could have had his best game of the year against, especially if we don't see, the 8-time Pro Bowler Trent Williams in there at left tackle.
It would be so Bears for them not to force any turnovers against Garropolo. It would just be so Bears.
No kidding. I'm checking out this Bulls game again right now. We've had a lot of negative news in the Chicago sports industry lately. It's been a pretty tough couple of days, especially if you're a Blackhawks fan. So the really positive stuff that we're looking at today, though, it's Joakim Noah night. Bulls are down by 12 right now in the third, but
12. Whoa.
Yeah, the Knicks have it going, but there's a little love to Joakim right now that I think we all can appreciate.
The Chicago Bulls draft Joakim Noah from the University of Florida.
Thinking like, who's this dude with the wild hair? I want to see how he hoop.
Energy like you wouldn't believe.
Real Joakim, he's a down dude. He ride with you through the fire. He gonna ride with you forever.
Joakim was the emotional leader of that team.
He's gonna say what's on his mind, and that's what you love the most about him.
I mean, I never heard anybody say, I'm going to Cleveland on vacation.
Joe's a deeply passionate person.
He's all about figuring out how can he help someone that's down. It's bigger than basketball.
The NBA Defensive Player of the Year.
This award is a team award. I appreciate them through all the adversity that we've gone through.
Cared about winning, cared about the city.
You know he's gonna go to war with you.
If you're not even competing on his level, he's going to kick your ass that night, and you're going to hear about it.
It's a sacrifice to want to win. That's what Joakim is all about.
To be able to win a Game 7 like this is huge, and we just wanted to make the city proud, make Chicago proud. That was the whole thing.
Peace and love, Sticks, on a hell of a career. Enjoyed it, big bro. Love.
That was awesome.
Oh, yeah. So there you have it. A little bit of a change of pace. You notice me wearing my Bulls jersey. Joakim Noah night. You see, yes, we're a Bears podcast, but we love Chicago sports. We're all fans here. We cover the Bulls on Sports Mockery and everything. And for all the negative news that we've had with the Bears over the last couple of weeks and with all the negative news with the Blackhawks this week that we're not going to get into, it was a cool moment. The guys like Joakim are great for the city, and glad that he'll be a Bulls ambassador and around for a little while. All around great dude. I loved that 2011 team. It's I hope they win tonight too. Improve to 5-0 would be pretty sweet. Bears could take a couple of pages out of that book of playing defense and shooting threes, making a little offense too.
Hey, look at the way Lonzo Ball's passing. So hey,
look at that. Look at us. We can hit all the points on this podcast.
Hit all the points.
Look at us. They don't pay us enough for it. Getting back to Bears topics. One last thing we want to get to before we get to questions and everything else. The trade deadline is Tuesday. We have to mention it. We're probably not going to have a show that will talk about the trade deadline because our next show will be a post-game show on Sunday after they play the 49ers, hopefully beat the 49ers. So trade deadline, Bears aren't normally sellers. What are they doing this time? Are they selling? They staying pat? They're not. I don't think they're adding. They don't have draft capital. What are they doing?
I think they should be sellers. I think they're at a point in where they're at. They've played 3 contending teams already and been blown out every single time that you're seeing, okay, this team's not a contender. So we need to start thinking about the future here. And right now the future is absolutely Justin Fields. He needs to be your focus. And for that, you need 2 things. You need draft picks and you need money. And the best way to do that is to unload whatever players you can at the trade deadline and see what you can get back, even if they're, 4th, 5th round picks or whatever, and then see if you can unload some hefty contracts. I don't think they will because of the nature of the two men in charge right now, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. They might not be here next year, and they need to win. So they're going to try and probably hang on to whoever they got and see if this team can push it through and maybe sneak into the playoffs again. And at that point, they might get contract extensions and move forward. But, they're basically fighting for their jobs. And if they, sell off a bunch of guys, that's going to be waving the white flag from their perspective. And I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating situation. To Eric's point, being blown out by three obvious contenders, NFC heavyweights, clearly shows where the Bears are, their readiness to really play and compete. To that point, if they are sellers, it might speak a little bit to Ryan Pace's job status. If they're allowing him to sell off assets and be like, you know what, fuck it, we're not going to be competing this year. Go ahead, Ryan, do what we got to do for the future. That'll speak a lot to his, status. Like they may be more inclined to keep him around, regardless of what happens with Matt Nagy at the end of the year. So that'll be interesting to watch. To Eric's point, also, I do think they should be sellers. Will they be sellers? It's a very good question to the point I just made, but I think a lot of that will be dependent on what happens on Sunday, right? I mean, if they win, they're 4-4. To your point, Kevin, I don't think they have the capital or the ability to add anyone via trade. So they may be looking at, other free agents or whatever else that might be available to maybe make some additions there. But as far as, unloading capital, we'll see. If they lose and it's very obvious, then they probably should. And quite honestly, there is no shortage of players that the Bears should make available if that's the case. But I don't see them being buyers. But we'll see. We'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think we see them do anything, to be honest. But I do think they should be sellers. I agreed with Eric, and we're going to give you a little flashback to that.
Bears haven't traditionally been sellers at the trade deadline, maybe, and I don't think they're going to be, especially with Ryan Pace knowing he probably needs to win football games if he's going to keep his job or get Justin Fields to play better than he has. So I don't think they're going to be sellers at the deadline, but with the way Khalil Herbert's playing, it is logical that you would at least consider trading Montgomery, because then you have Herbert and Williams, who are a good 1-2 punch, and Pace has proven consistently to be able to identify running back talent. Jordan Howard, Montgomery, Herbert, it's been consistent. And this is how you need to approach the running back position these days. You don't pay them big contracts. You just continue to reload late in the draft or via undrafted free agency, because you can find them there too. So the fact that they were able to find Herbert so cheap in the 6th round is absolutely outstanding, because he looks like a legit player. So that's definitely a positive. Today. Yeah, he looked terrific against a really, really great run defense. I mean, they've been number 1 in the NFL since 2019. Yeah. It's been that long how dominant they've been against the run. So for him to play that well against them, that tells you he's not a fluke.
Buccaneers hadn't given up 80 yards of rushing yet this year. He broke that nearly in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the shedding tackles, the quick look,
the vision, the quick decision making.
Now,
that's
granted,
exactly what you want to see.
But he did struggle a little bit in pass protection, but that's because they were using different blitzing packages throughout the game to kind of change it up. They wanted to pick on the rookies. They wanted to pick on Fields. They wanted to pick on Herbert. Those were evident there. But
that's coaching.
You're right. You can lay that on the coaches as well. But this is something I want to watch moving forward. Because if Herbert's this good, which he looked good in preseason when I saw him live, and he's been looking even better since then, I think this is something we can definitely look at. And that was the flashback, which was presented by, we don't have a sponsor yet, so sponsor us. Working on that. But I agree with our points right there. But if someone calls about David Montgomery and offers you a high pick, like 3rd round or higher,
you kind of got to do it. I mean,
you got to do it, right? Like, he's great, and I love Montgomery, but with where this team is and where they're going to be competing, you may as well get some value for him. Now, again, I don't see it happening, but if someone picks up the phone, look, we just saw the Saints go and get Mark Ingram from the Texans. What was the return on that deal? It couldn't have been that high. Mark Ingram isn't that great anymore.
Have we even seen the details on that yet? I don't think we have.
Probably conditional something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at the Ravens. The Ravens need a running back right now, really bad. I mean, they're running Devonta Freeman out there and Le'Veon Bell, and they're trying to. And Tyson Williams is playing. They're throwing guys at a wall, seeing if they would stick. They can't stay healthy. What are other teams that need running backs right now? Some contenders. I'm sure the Rams. I'm sure the Rams would.
The Rams wouldn't mind one. I'm sure.
I'm sure they'd be interested.
Montgomery would instantly be running back one on that roster.
Yeah, he's better than Darrell Williams for sure. Or not Darrell Williams, excuse me.
Darrell Henderson.
Darrell Henderson, yeah.
Sony Michel sucks. So yeah, I mean,
yeah. Well, that's the only reason they wouldn't make that deal is they already traded Michel this year, right? But again, there's plenty of teams that would want running back depth going into the postseason this year. So I say I'm sure they're fielding calls on Allen Robinson. I'm sure they're fielding calls on Travis. Thank you. It just says late round pick for Ingram. Thank you, Travis. So again, he's not worth giving up a late round pick for. I'd rather have him.
No, you'd rather have him for next year too.
You get a 4th round pick or higher. Yeah, you can. Well, I say do it. But guys that might get. Do you think they make any moves at all? Are there any guys that they might move? Like
Allen Robinson potentially.
Allen Robinson, Akeem Hicks is another possibility. You know, guys on expiring contracts, you might be able to get cheaper than normal, given who they are. I think you could probably get a 4th or 5th for Hicks, depending on the situation. A-Rob, you should be shooting for a 3rd if possible. You know, he's still a top wide receiver despite the struggles of the offense. And, you know, yes, the contract situation is one thing, but 3rds, you know, they have value, but at the same time, you can afford to lose one compared to a 1st or 2nd. So I think if a team is in a pretty decent spot, they can afford to lose a 3rd round pick for somebody like Robinson, who might be able to push them over the top, you know, going into the playoffs. So that's something you should be looking for, either that or maybe like a 4th and a later round pick, a 6th or something. You should be able to get something for those guys, depending on, again, on the situation. Those are the two that really stand out to me. There are others, you know. Maybe Andy Dalton might fetch something. Everyone keeps talking about Nick Foles, but I'm like, no, man. I think Dalton has more value at this point than
100%.
Nick Foles does. So, you know, that's another one to watch. I don't know if the Bears, with their, you know, loyalty to him, that they'll do that. But, you know, they should think about it, considering it's pretty much the Justin Fields show, and Nick Foles is a perfectly fine backup in his own right. So it's really, something to think about there.
It's really ticking me off that Nick Foles is still on this team when Mike White is playing in New York. And I know Foles has a no trade clause. I get that. But come on, Nick. Get out of here, man. Go play football somewhere else. Is that wrong? Get out of here, man.
Why would he want to go to the Jets? I mean, seriously, you look at Zach Wilson, he's been getting annihilated. Does Nick Foles really want to go to a hostile market like New York and immediately probably get killed in the process? You know, so I understand why he wouldn't want to go to New York.
Maybe Nick Foles likes getting the money over playing the game of football. So he's won his Super Bowl, so I guess that makes sense in that respect. But
absolutely no incentive to go anywhere. He's holding a clipboard. He's not active, you know, on game days anymore. He's making a bunch of money. Like, honestly, at this point in his career, he knows what he is.
He's only 33, right?
Yeah, but he's bad. Like,
no, he's bad. That's why I don't want him here anymore. Go play for somebody else. You're not
the short answer I've heard in a long time. Yeah, but he's bad.
But it's true. Yeah,
you're not wrong.
I mean, look. At this point, even if the Bears do try to trade him, he said it himself in training camp. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere. He may not even report. He doesn't care. He's made enough money. So that's what I think. The Bears are stuck with him. And again, I think he's worth more to the Bears at this point than off, considering how much money they'd have to eat next year and all that kind of stuff. So it's fine. I don't hate it, but Andy Dalton, if he can fetch trade value, I would do it. Jimmy Graham potentially, Marquise Goodwin potentially. On defense, if we're talking, quite honestly, Bilal Nichols, because he's an expiring contract. I mean, I'm obviously
I don't want to see him trade Nichols. I really like Nichols.
Oh, I do too. It's just one of those things where, it's like if you have to and you're desperate, because they have to pay him next year.
And they have plenty of depth there too, right? No, you're not wrong to think that way. And I think that there has to be some moves coming, right? I know the NFL trade deadline is the most dull trade deadline of all time. There's usually nothing that really happens. It's not the NBA trade deadline. It's not the MLB trade deadline. But I have a feeling some moves will be made. You're right. The Bears have some really nice wide receiver pieces that are really low value right now because they've done nothing all year with Goodwin and Bird. Both those guys are solid pickups for any team looking for wide receiver depth. Heck, our friends to the north, just let me know the score of that game, by the way, if you're still watching it. They need wide receiver depth like crazy. You're not going to rely on Allen Lazard and Devontae Adams and Valdez. I mean, heck, maybe they will, but I think it's stupid when you clearly could do better
for sure
than those guys. But what's the score of that game?
10-7 at halftime. Green Bay's up. Kyler Murray has been awful in this game.
He's not playing well, which is unusual.
But might I say, both teams at home hosting the Packers. Justin Fields had a really nice touchdown drive where he actually did shit. Kyler Murray had a very lucky toss deep and got a touchdown thanks to DeAndre Hopkins' genius. So
what is this?
Who's the better quarterback?
Who are you talking about? What are you comparing right now? I'm so confused. You're comparing the Hail Mary from Kyler and what did Justin do?
Had a really nice touchdown drive where he actually did shit against the Packers. In
Two really nice touchdown drives.
I'm talking about the first half, though. Both teams, both scores were 10-7 at halftime. I don't know. I'm just being obtuse for fun.
I didn't think it was that funny.
It wasn't meant to be funny. It was meant to be just facts.
All right. Well,
but it is funny.
It is funny.
It's funny now.
It's funny.
We don't have many questions in the feeder today. We don't normally do these shows on Thursday, but we like to do them early on in the week. Just fell to Thursday this week. We'll try and get it up a little bit higher. I know a lot of you are probably watching the Bulls right now and watching Thursday Night Football. That is all right. A couple questions. This is a great one from Jimmy. I don't know if you're still tuning in. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But no, they're not going to win the division this year.
Not with that defense, they aren't.
And if you would have told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have absolutely called myself crazy. There's the Kansas City I had going back to the Super Bowl this year, and I have Mahomes in fantasy right now, and my team is winless because he stinks. And Travis Kelce doesn't stink, but has not been good. Like, I'm not getting the value that I paid for these guys, and my team stinks because of it. So I'm ticked at Kansas City, and no, they won't win their division this year. Nope, not going to happen.
Quite honestly, you look at – sorry, Eric. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we knew that going into this season that, the AFC West is one of the best divisions in football. They've really, put together a solid top to bottom, set of teams. The Raiders have played outstanding football outside of a couple of games, which is so surprising considering what they had to go through with the Gruden mess. And then, I think the Chargers should still be considered the favorite in that division, even though they're not leading it right now because they already have one win over the Raiders, so they have the tiebreaker there. Herbert's playing good football. I think Staley's going to have that defense playing well despite some of their deficiencies. So I still think they're the favorite, in that division, even though the Raiders are currently leading it. And when you look at Kansas City, Mahomes is trying to play hero ball right now. I mean, he's trying to make all the big plays that he can because he knows the defense just can't get stops. They can't. I mean, they're blitzing like crazy because their pass rush can't get home and their secondary is not all that great. So, Mahomes is trying to do too much and therefore he's turning the ball over a bunch because he's that kind of player. He's a bit of a gunslinger. And, this was always the risk that you ran when you drafted Mahomes in the first place, but they've been able to, navigate past that because he has great weapons and he's been playing really smart football for the most part. And unfortunately, now that it's all on him squarely, he's making a lot of mistakes.
Look, I mean, if you go back to last year, I think really his last 16 games and look at Mahomes' actual play, independent of scheme, independent of weapons, he's looked pretty rough for the last 16 games, a full NFL schedule. I'm talking about he's not able to really read what's happening with two high safety shells. His footwork looks terrible. His ball placement's been off. It's been a little bit rough. And look, I'm not insinuating anything. Mahomes is obviously still an exceptional talent, a good quarterback who's going to have success in the NFL because, quite honestly, he's in a very good situation too. That helps him through rough patches like this. But he's been pretty borderline close to bad in the last 16 games. So unless that improves, there's no way Casey is going to overcompensate for that, or compensate, I should say, for that defense. So no, I mean, I agree with you guys. I don't think they win the division. Plus, it's a tough division. So, they're already kind of behind the 8 ball. I think they're 3-4. It's going to be tough to climb out of that.
So you're telling me the Bears made the right pick?
Oh my God!
Hey, who says no? Quarterback competition in KC next year. Mitch versus Mahomes. When he leaves Buffalo, he goes to Kansas City and he backs up Mahomes and forces him out of. How would that? No, man.
How many years are left on that extension?
Like 7, something like
Mahomes.
that.
Mahomes signed a 10-year deal.
Yeah. So like 7 or 8.
He signed a 10-year,
ridiculous.
425. It was like a $400 million contract for like 10 years. Yeah, he's a Chief for life.
And the crazy thing is, there's some Chief fans out there who are starting to, think they made a mistake, and I'm like, really?
Guys are morons.
I get it. He's going through a rough patch, man. But you've got Andy Reid there. He's a great quarterback still. He's still making plays. Okay. Yeah, he's giving the ball away a little too much, but he's gonna be fine.
He's not on an all-time pace anymore.
Hear me out.
I mean, seriously.
Geez. Hear me out. Khalil Mack for a first-round pick and McCole Hardman. Who says no?
I mean, Kansas
McCole
City.
Hardman on the Bears would be so sick. You talk about a guy who can burn the
There's no
field.
way Kansas City's going to give up a first-round pick for Khalil Mack, no matter how desperate they might be.
I would love that, but yeah.
I mean, sure, yeah. I'd take that deal all day, but I don't see that happening.
You don't think they give up a first? Probably not. No, he's too beat up.
I don't think they can afford it. Plus their cap situation. They have a lot of money they owe in various places, so it'd be a tough one for them to swing.
Look at the cap before I open my mouth, because I don't normally do that. But
it's just something that people just tend to forget, that this time of year a lot of teams don't actually have a ton of money to spend, so getting some of these contracts off the books can be difficult, whereas in the off season they got way more cap space and you can make deals like that.
Travis with the question, who would you guys like to see replace Nagy? I feel like this is going to be a question we're going to get for a long time.
There will be time for this, Travis. There will be a lot of time for this, considering the Bears season is going to be over probably in the next couple weeks. So
I'm cool. Let's throw some names out there. I mean, the obvious one is Brian Dable.
Yep.
Kellen Moore in Dallas is one. Greg Roman, I think, is probably overdue for an opportunity out of Baltimore.
Who's the Baltimore OC?
Greg
Roman.
Todd Bowles will probably get another opportunity, at some point here soon. He probably deserves one, considering how he was treated in New York.
Sean Desai.
Sean Desai is an option for sure. Joe Brady. I think the shine has kind of left him a little bit, considering how much Sam Darnold has suddenly started to suck. But also Sam Darnold just sucks. And I actually credit him more for what he did with Teddy Bridgewater. He had that offense humming pretty decently last year. So anyway, there are some options, and I think there'll be some more that come up. I see the next question is, what about Byron Leftwich?
Yeah, consider him.
The engine in Tampa Bay is Tom Brady. I mean, you cannot. It's so hard. I get why you're asking this, but it's hard to separate what Tom Brady is doing versus what Leftwich has as far as influence on that scheme.
I think what they're probably leaning on is, yes, you obviously have to consider the Brady thing, but the offense was good before Brady got there in terms of being explosive, because you had Jameis Winston. He threw 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. Yes, the 30 picks looks really bad, but they were a productive offense before Brady got there. So that is something that works in Leftwich's favor. Is it enough to, to get people convinced that it wasn't just Tom Brady doing everything down there? So it's one of those really tough things, because in my opinion of what happened with Adam Gase, he was there in Denver when Manning had that late surge to his career in 2013, 2012, 2014, when he played really well. They were scoring a metric ton of points. And then Adam Gase, fed off that to get 2 head coaching opportunities in Miami and New York, and both were disasters.
Yeah.
And so you worry about that when you look at a guy like Leftwich. Is he just, taking advantage of a great situation? So in that regard, you have to understand.
We've talked about not knowing your personnel and being able to craft an offense around your personnel. Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, Cameron Brate, And yet the amount of times they run the ball with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, just pass the ball 80% of the time. You're going to have success. Like, why do you waste downs? Like, that's where I struggle. Anyway, I'm done.
No, you're right. And you mentioned Jameis Winston in there too. That's another name I don't want to hear for a while, because all I needed was like 2 to 3 more receptions to Marquez Callaway, and I would have won my first fantasy game of the year last week in one of my leagues. But instead, he threw a bunch of incompletions and checkdowns and took a lot of sacks and did Jameis
Big news
things,
just
and they
came
won
out.
the game. Oh, what happened?
What's up?
Gwenville resigned.
Oh yeah,
wow.
There was some news that just broke a couple hours ago where people were expecting some changes. This is another Stan Bowman situation where it's basically, quit or you're fired. Yeah, Quenville. I mean,
yeah, we kind of saw that one coming.
Yeah,
man, that is just the whole situation involving the Blackhawks is
it's rough.
Not one I want to get into at this time. We're having a good show, and it's just a really awful situation down there.
I will say this. I don't care about the Blackhawks organization to talk about them, but I will say, just my own opinion, credit to Kyle Beach and, that tough situation. Thoughts are with you wherever you are. It takes a lot of courage to do what you did. So.
Yeah, no question about it. Last thing from Travis here. He does not want the enemy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with him. I'm with him.
I think he deserves an interview.
Sure.
He's gotten interviews, and apparently he wasn't doing that well in them.
Yeah. I think he'll get an interview with the Bears, knowing Ryan Pace. If things are going the way they're going right now, it seems like Ryan Pace is going to stick around. Matt Nagy will be gone.
We'll see.
But we will see. Bears got to win this week. It'll be a 5-game losing streak for Kyle Shanahan if they come in here and lose to the Bears on the lakefront, which leads me into my final take tonight. This game for the Bears means more than shedding a 2-game losing streak. This is a game they need to have. One, because they're playing a very inferior quarterback, one that has been the reason the 49ers have not won a Super Bowl. They know that. I know that. You know that. We all know that. Jimmy Garropolo is not a terrible quarterback, but he's not a good one. He turns the ball over a lot. He's 2-0 against the Bears in his career. But this game means more than just getting back to 500. The Bears, what we've seen in this offense this year, ranked dead last in the National Football League, haven't passed for 200 yards this year, the first team since the 2008 Tennessee Titans to do that. There's going to be a change at head coach this offseason. Even if the Bears make the playoffs, I still believe that Matt Nagy will be replaced. Let's take a look at Kyle Shanahan, a guy the Bears could have had before hiring John Fox. Kyle Shanahan in this offense, in the way the Bears like to draft quarterbacks, if Ryan Pace sticks around, which is what the new rumblings say they're going to be, if he sticks around, Kyle Shanahan, play action passes, screen passes, jet sweeps with this running back core that the Bears just continue to find guys later in the draft, like Khalil Herbert, who appears to be the running back of the future. Can you imagine pairing a guy like Kyle Shanahan and Justin Fields together? A guy who makes it easy on his quarterbacks. I can imagine that. And if they lose 5 in a row at Soldier Field on Sunday, guess what? I think the 49ers are also going to be thinking, hey, we're looking for a new guy. And the Bears would be absolutely foolish not to bring him on next year.
That's well said. You know what I'm looking forward to? If the Bears do win, I would love to see the post-game handshake between Justin Fields and Kyle Shanahan, where Fields is basically like, this is what you get for passing on me. And Shanahan's like, well, maybe I'll be coaching you next year, to your point. So that would be an interesting exchange.
And we did hear, too, from the 49ers president. He was talking with Chris Collinsworth on the Collinsworth podcast. I was watching it earlier today, talking about the draft process and how they skipped Fields, didn't go really watch him. They knew Trey Lance was the guy right then and there. They wanted him really bad, and they took him. So that would be the only stipulation, right? But if you're Kyle Shanahan and there's other options out there, I don't think the Bears are going to be the first choice in teams looking for head coaches next year. I think the Jaguars are for sure going to be looking for a coach. The Bears will probably be looking for a coach. Giants maybe, Jets maybe. They're not Jets. Sorry, I meant Panthers. Got the Sam Darnold thing confused. We'll see. If Justin Fields can prove himself the last stretch 10 games of this year to be a commodity and a guy that coaches will want to work with, Kyle Shanahan would be at the top of my list right away. But again, with him passing, who knows? Maybe he doesn't want the job. We will see. Final thoughts, guys? I got the Bears on Sunday.
I think the Bears are going to play better than they did against the Buccaneers. It's kind of hard not to. But,
I'll take that bet.
Yeah, I think they're going to run the ball pretty well. San Francisco's been pretty, generous, against the run. And I really think the Bears are probably going to utilize play action a little more often than they have, especially more often than they should have against the Buccaneers, because one, Justin's good off of play action. And two, you have one of the best running games in the league right now. Why wouldn't you use play action as much as possible? So I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. And, if the offensive line gets some stability, if it is Borom playing at right tackle, that'll only help matters. And if you can just keep that pass rush from not wrecking the game, I think Justin's going to play better. And I think they got a chance to win. Obviously, I think it's going to be close. But, if the Bears play closer to where they were against Las Vegas or Detroit, I think they got a chance to win this one and, maybe go for 5-4 before getting into the bye.
That would be fun, my bold final take here is that they score more than 3 points. I mean, hey, it's bold nowadays for the Bears.
Sure.
So
I really hate to admit that. But yeah.
No, but I do expect a better performance just because, to your point, it's just impossible not to. I do think they're going to incorporate concepts that they should be incorporating with a quarterback like Fields, just where he is in his career. The biggest question I have is, can they stop the 49ers run? It'll be important. And don't turn the ball over. Those are the two biggest things. And again, this is a winnable game. They should win. I don't have them winning, but that's just because I need to see it. But they should win. And to that point, if they're able to win, they can take that into Pittsburgh, another very winnable game. If they're looking 5-4 and going into the bye week, we're all feeling a lot better about this team. And we're having very different conversations. So we'll just have to see it play out. But, in the meantime, until we get there, guys, happy Halloween. And hopefully it is a happy Halloween for the Bears.
No question about it. Bears-Niners on Sunday. This is the Club Dub podcast presented by sportsmockery.com. You see our Twitter handles right down in the bottom left-hand corners of our faces right now. Go follow us. Go follow our page. Go follow Sports Mockery again. Bears and Niners at noon on Sunday. Two teams looking to snap some losing streaks. It'll be Jimmy Garropolo versus Justin Fields. We'll see if Matt Nagy's on the sidelines. We'll see if Khalil Mack suits up. His foot is banged up. He might head to IR. That would be bad news for the Bears. We will have all of that and more to cover on Sunday during the postgame. We might even do a little Twitter space action, which means we'll just have us talking during the game, and you guys can join in and talk with us. So for Eric, Drew, and Kevin, this is the Club Dub podcast, and we will talk to you guys Sunday after the game.